Let's rank every U.S. state based on how good their college football teams were in 2025. In this video, the finale, we do the top 10, starting at number 10 with Ohio. The Buckeyes carrying this conference as usual, but there were some solid teams this year outside of them. Ohio, Miami of Ohio, and Toledo, all solid in the MAC. Cincinnati makes a bowl game. Even Akron and Kent State weren't as bad as they usually are. Bowling Green, probably the worst in this state, but overall a positive season. Next up is Virginia, which had a hugely surprising season. James Madison wins the Sun Belt and makes the playoffs. Virginia makes the ACC title game. Old Dominion was probably the second best team in the Sun Belt and won 10 games. And then Virginia Tech and Liberty, surprisingly, were the two worst teams in the state that actually held them back. The state of Iowa always finds a high spot in these rankings because of the consistency of the programs in the state. Both teams finished with 4 losses this year, and both were really solid in the Big 12 and Big 10 respectively. The state of Arizona has an extremely similar dynamic to Iowa, with both the Sun Devils and Wildcats being solid teams in the Big 12 this year. The reason I gave them the nod is because Arizona State at least opted into a bowl game, whereas Iowa State opted them out, so I'm giving Arizona the boost for that. Mississippi gets a nice spot this year, with Ole Miss putting the state in its back a run to the semifinals that has a huge weight on this ranking, but Southern Miss was really solid in the Sun Belt and competitive throughout most of the year. Mississippi State was also very competitive, ended up making a bowl game at 5-7. They were probably better than their record indicated anyway, so a really great year for Mississippi. As usual, the state of Georgia had a great year. The Bulldogs win the conference title in the SEC, Kennesaw State wins the Sun Belt, Georgia Tech was a contender in the ACC, and Georgia Southern was solid. Georgia State also present and terrible. This might be controversial, but the number 4 spot goes to Indiana. Yes, the Hoosiers were the best team in college football. They went undefeated. They were number 1. Notre Dame was phenomenal, winning 10 games, just missing the CFP. That alone is one of the best 1-2 punches there is, arguably the best. But Purdue is just awful. They were the worst power conference team arguably this year. And Ball State, also really not very good. A pretty bad MAC team. And because of that, it weighs down the state. You got to consider all teams. At number 3 is the state of Tennessee. You've got Vanderbilt ripping off 10 wins this year in the SEC. Tennessee with an 8-win season. Memphis, one of the top tier teams in the American. That's a really solid top trio of teams. Middle Tennessee is pretty awful. That does hurt them a little bit, but overall a great year for the state. At number 2 is the most overlooked state this year, and that's the state of Utah. Both BYU and Utah had incredible seasons. Both ended with bowl victories. Both had solid CFP cases at the end of the day, and Utah State was solid in the Mountain West, a state that does not get the credit it deserves, and it was the second best U.S. state this year. But the number 1 college football state in 2025 is the state of Texas. They also happen to have the most FBS teams with 13, but they just had an incredible year. 2 CFP teams, over half the state was in contention in their respective conference titles, and of 13 programs in the state, only 3 of them ended up missing a bowl game. A pretty spectacular season for the state of Texas. They get the number 1 ranking.